And now, Daljeet Dollywall.
Deadly riots in China's Xinjiang Province earlier this summer put the Uyghur movement and their leader Rebia Kadir in the spotlight. There are still 13 Uyghurs imprisoned in Guantanamo Bay. Here to discuss their situation and the larger movement is Nury Turkel, co-founder of the Uyghur Human Rights Project and past president of the Uyghur American Association. Nury, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
You know, we hear a lot about Tibet's struggle for independence from China. We don't know very much, I suppose, in the United States about the Uyghurs' struggle for independence. Tell us a little bit about who the Uyghurs are and why some of them want to break away from China.
The Uyghurs are indigenous people of a nation known as East Turkestan, that is referred to as Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region by the Chinese authorities. Uyghurs have been politically and economically, socially discriminated by the Chinese authorities, particularly since the founding of the PRC in 1949. The Uyghurs had a short-lived East Turkestan Republic twice in modern history. First time in 1933, second time in 1944. The second republic was set up with the support of the Stalin's Soviet Union, but later Stalin changed his heart and allied with Mao Zedong and literally delivered East Turkestan nation to the Chinese in the silver plate.
So it was brought under Beijing's control, but the region is referred to China as semi-autonomous. Do most Uyghurs want independence then, to take care of their own affairs?
The Uyghur areas known as Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, technically an autonomous region that should be able to manage its political, at least social affairs. But that autonomy, like the situation in Tibet and Inner Mongolia, are only on paper, never have been implemented. Therefore, the Uyghurs have been struggling literally in every front, cultural, social, economic, demanding the guarantees, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom to worship, that is supposedly provided under the Chinese constitution as well as the autonomy laws. But the Chinese government technically did not really treat the Uyghur region and Uyghurs as a people, rather it has been treated as a colony since 1949. Instead of addressing the legitimate concerns of the Uyghurs, Chinese government stepped up the pressure and started a different type of campaign in the mid-90s, what's called the Strike Hard campaign. Since 9/11, they come up with the slogan known as fight against three forces: extremism, separatism, and terrorism.
Why do you think that the Chinese government has portrayed the Uyghurs as terrorists and tried to portray them also as auxiliaries of Al-Qaeda?
It's nothing other than being opportunistic approach by the Chinese government. Yes, there has been some isolated incidents took place in the 90s, but just 2 weeks before 9/11, top Chinese official held a press conference and specifically stated that Xinjiang is a very peaceful place and therefore Western investors should come and invest. And soon after 9/11, they changed their position completely in claiming that China, too, is a victim of terrorism. Just the fact that the Uyghurs happen to be Muslim, just the fact that some Uyghurs are frustrated and wanted to seek an independent Uyghur nation, given the Chinese government a leverage, an excuse to label the Uyghur population. Of course, here the United States has a responsibility as well. Back in 2002, in summer of 2002, Bush administration hastily agreed with the Chinese government to designate an obscure organization called East Turkestan Islamic Movement as a terrorist organization. That helped the Chinese to further its heavy-handed crackdown and making no difference between peaceful dissent versus acts of violence.
Do you think that there's going to be a change in policy now that we have a new administration?
I'd like to believe that the new administration will address the legitimate grievances of the Uyghurs seeking political, economic, social freedom. But the position that the Obama administration took after July 5th incidents has been largely disappointing. Here's why. The Uyghurs have been told in the past, particularly by the U.S. government, Bush administration, and some members of Obama administration, some members of European communities, that so long as Uyghurs express their demand in peaceful ways, the America, the Europe, and civilized world will be with them.
So there is support for the Uyghur movement inside the United States?
There has been, the support is mainly from the congressional members of Congress. Of course, the Uyghurs have been very established and maintained good relationship with the administration, particularly in the latter part of the Bush administration, where President Bush himself met with Ms. Kadir twice, once in Europe, once in the White House.
And this is the leader of the
Uyghur movement.
Yes. How did Kadir become the leader of the movement?
She's a tremendous human being. Her story, her life story, kind of resembles the Uyghur struggle. Because she is a self-made millionaire, struggled to make a living, not only make a living, but thrived within China. But after becoming very wealthy and influential person, she tried to change the system in the hopes that her goodwill effort will make the Chinese government understand that the Uyghurs don't have to give up their way of life in order to be a member of a China proper. The Chinese government taken her as a problem instead of seeing her as a solution to the East Turkestan issues. And they strip out her social status, including the member of the rubber stamp Chinese parliament, and confiscated her passport and lock her up and sentenced her to 8 years in prison. But because of the U.S. government's pressure and other NGOs' pressure, in 2005 she was released into the United States. She is not a criminal, as the Chinese calls. She never violated any Chinese laws. The crime that